Welcome to Practical Talk Time. I'm Sandy Wrobel, your host for today, which is February 28th, 2012. And as we know, gasoline prices have gone through the roof lately, and they've gone up 18 cents in the last 2 weeks. The least expensive gas I saw today for regular was $3.89 a gallon. And I'm sure in many places they're a little bit over $4 a gallon. We have a very special and very interesting guest with us today. His name is Steve Schappert, and he is working on a biocar that he will be telling us about. So let's meet Stephen right now. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Hi, thank you very much, Sandy.
We're
Great
glad
to be here.
Same here. I talked to you on the phone, and you're doing a multitude of things, and the biocar is one of them. It sounds really you've and I talked to a few people, and they're telling me it's impossible. And I guess you've already
a lot.
you've had it running. So let's go way back and find out how you first began to be interested in an alternative type of car.
Goes all the way back to kindergarten. One of my best friend's dad founded fuel cell technology here in Danbury, and at the time I was 4 years old. Mr. Baker drove a little blue Fiat, and it had 6 electric batteries in the back, and it was an electric car. So it caught my attention. It made a big impression on me, and I kept the interest throughout my life. So moving forward, had all my ups and downs, and then got into being a contractor, being a real estate broker, being a builder, being a developer, being the green builder. Developed a green living expo, and the market crashed and I lost everything except my 72 Mustang and a 2000 Cherokee. That was it. Had $142, no home, no office, no job, no insurance, no unemployment. So I go out to the driveway and I pulled the tarp off the Mustang that had been under a blue tarp for 4 years. I look under the engine compartment and I just go, what now? I'm either going to have to sell the car to buy lunch, move into the car for shelter, or I'm staring underneath the hood, which is a 429 engine compartment, and it only has a straight 6 engine in it, so tons of space. I go back and I'm thinking of all the things I've learned over the years and remembered hydrogen generators. Like, I could probably fit a really big hydrogen generator underneath the hood of this car, and that would make it very effective. So I kept thinking, I'm like, well, and then maybe if I drove it cross country, I could get publicity for my green building company, and then we would be able to, kind of regrow my business. So I posted that on Facebook, and one of the founders of MTV called up and said, that's a fantastic idea. It's a green road trip. I love it. Let's make a movie. Generated all kinds of excitement. We never ended up making the movie because times are still tough and they couldn't find the financing for it.
How long ago was it when MTV called you?
2009.
Okay, so that's just 2 years ago.
Right.
And I believe you said you did do the road trip anyway, even though they backed out of it.
Correct.
Can you tell us?
And they hadn't fully backed out at the time that we did it. They were just like, well, you go start driving and we'll go see if we can find some money. And so that's what we did. It was 2 people, myself and Steve Melcher. We had both been unemployed for almost 2 years, had no money left, had $700, I think, between the 2 of us in our pocket, and we got in the car and started driving.
Were you ever worried that you might get stuck permanently somewhere where you wouldn't be able to go on with the car? Or
I had full confidence that Melcher would fix anything that happened.
Really? That's quite an adventure. I don't know if I think I'd be a little bit worried. Did you actually sleep in the car on the trip?
Never actually had to sleep in the car. Thanks to Facebook, we had friends. Facebook in high school, we had friends all over the country that simply said, hey, stop by, we'll give you, a roof over your head and a meal and, couple of bucks for gas, and that worked. That got us through 28 states in 28 days.
Did you keep a diary as you went, or anything like that?
Started to. I have a basic and started writing, so yes.
We've had another lady on, an author, second career volunteer, and she only has Social Security, and half the year she travels throughout the United States. She stays at places volunteering and gets room and board, and she's written the book, Second Career Volunteer, and I think she's working on another one. So I'm just thinking that perhaps there'd be a book in your adventure with your car.
That's quite possible. I'm actually talking to two writers about that, and talking about still the possibility of doing a movie or doing a video, something along those lines, because it's been a hell of a ride. It's just been very interesting, very exciting. And the technology is very exciting, but what is more heartwarming is the way that people reached out to us. And I'm showing up in California at 11:30 at night, and a woman takes us in. I mean, I knew her from Facebook, never met her before. 11:30, two guys are walking in the house, and she said, here's a room for you, and it was 11:30, and we sat and talked for a little bit, and then she made us breakfast in the morning and said, she says, I got to go to work, could you lock the door behind you? Sure. And it's just that story in so many different, episodes, so to speak, different people. That's been fascinating.
That is a very fascinating story, and it's also the human element. It's not just about the car. That to me is very interesting, more so than when you're talking about a hydrogen generator. I wouldn't know one if I saw one. I wouldn't know where to find one. I don't actually know what it does. Can you tell us any of those things? What it looks like, where you find it, how it works?
Sure. The original system, there's many different variations. We started out with a system that kind of looks like a black brick. That's a plate system. So we started with that. We weren't able to get it to work. We kept driving, we kept calling the manufacturer, we couldn't get any phone calls back. 7,000 miles into the trip, on TV, I think probably 10 times, staring at the camera going, it's not working, and they're not calling, and we don't know what to do.
And MTV's probably saying, good thing we didn't do it.
Probably.
At that point.
So we ended up in Oregon, and we put a tube cell system in, which is really 15 inches of PVC, and it's got a 6-inch set of 10 tubes, and it's tubes inside of tubes. Basically what we do is we take the alternator, we run it through a blinker switch, which pulses the alternator, okay, and that changes the wave formation of the electric current. It goes into a bridge rectifier, goes from AC to DC, and then it goes into the tube. If you put electricity into a bottle of water, the water turns into hydrogen and oxygen gas. So our container has...
I don't mean to interrupt you, but is it actually like the electricity is actually heating the water and it turns to steam? Is that the idea?
It's not steam, no.
No.
And it's not necessary. There is an element of heat because you have electricity, but you're breaking the water down at a molecular level into hydrogen and oxygen. If the lightning bolt hits the lake and you see that, yes, there's some steam, but you're also seeing hydrogen and oxygen being released. So the hydrogen and oxygen rises to the top of the container because when you go from a liquid to a gas, it expands 1,700 times.
Right, okay.
So that climbs to the top. We have a hose that goes from there and runs into the manifold inlet, okay? The manifold inlet has suction to it, so we basically created a poor man's fuel injection system that takes pure hydrogen and pure oxygen and feeds it into the manifold where it mixes with the gasoline. The pure oxygen allows the gasoline to burn more efficiently. The pure hydrogen displaces the gasoline by volume. So the more gas I'm able to produce in the canister, the less gasoline is required by the engine.
Mm-hmm. What kind of mileage did you get on this?
For the first 7,000 miles, we got 17 miles to the gallon, which is the stock mileage for that car. It never changed. And driving at night, during the day, up the Appalachians, down the Appalachians, it just didn't seem to matter. It was 15.4 to 17.3 miles to the gallon. Not really a big difference. Once we changed the system out, we started getting a 17% increase right away. So we were up around 20, just under 21 miles to the gallon. Mm-hmm. So we figured, okay, that's good. At that point, we're in Oregon. We're 26 days into the adventure, and we're out of money, but the bank doesn't know it yet. So we learned that, gee, when you buy gas, it hits your credit card 3 days later, and so we drove really fast. 2.5 days, we made it back to Connecticut so that we could go to work and put money in the account, which worked. So we didn't really have time to test it while we were on the road. But when I got back to Brookfield, still unemployed, I signed up for a class to become a building analyst. So I kept driving the car to and from class and testing it and pushing it to the limits, and I burned it up 3 times.
What do you mean you burned it up? The engine, or?
I mean, no, the system itself. I mean, basically the system inside twisted a little bit, and so it shorted out.
Okay.
Arc welded pieces, it glowed. You sat there with the car open and you're looking at the bottom of the canister and the water is all on the ground and there's this glowing orange thing in there going, well, that can't be good.
I think I would run thinking the car might explode.
Nah, it's just water. So I took it apart and I put it back together again. I built it a little bit stronger and I kept playing with different ways. Being on the road with the system not working was kind of a saving grace in a way, because even though we couldn't get the original manufacturer, and just to give him due credit, he was moving into a new office while we jumped on the trip, so he was just really hectic and not available. But we were able to talk to many other experts, and they were more than willing to say, oh, well, this is why his isn't working, and this is why ours is working, and so I'm taking notes, and so when I'm rebuilding it...
Like a blessing in disguise.
Right. I'm thinking, well, what did he say, and what did he say, and what did he say? And he never talked to him, and he never talked to him, but they all talked to me, so I'm going to try and just twist it a little bit. Not really the inventor, but I'm just kind of tweaking things using a little bit of everybody's information. And so we initially started using sodium hydroxide in the original system. The second system said you don't need it. I then tried combining the two, and that gave me a 33% increase in gas mileage. So I was like,